But let's move in. It is time for the mock draft 3.0. A lot of changes have happened, at least in the bottom half. We've some familiar faces near the top. Top 5 has really stayed the same. But Ricky, let's just jump right into it. Give us your 1 through 10 in the NBA mock draft 3.0.
Well, we're going to start off number 1. The Memphis Grizzlies going with DeAndre Ayton, the best player in college basketball. After that loss to Buffalo, said, screw it, I'm going to the NBA. There's no question about it.
Did he even play in that game?
He did.
There are some questions.
There are
He
some
had a
questions,
double-double.
but he said NBA, and he's going to be number 1 overall to the Grizzlies. Then you got Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., going to the Suns at 2. The Hawks taking Marvin Bagley, the big from Duke.
Some
and number
big boys.
4, Trae Young, the guard from Oklahoma, going to the Orlando Magic. Michael Porter Jr. from Mizzou going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. At number 6, Mo Bamba going to the Dallas Mavericks. At 7, the Kings taking Luka Doncic, the guard from overseas. Mikal Bridges going, it kills me. I wanted to have him follow the Bulls, but I couldn't. He's going to go to the Knicks. Mikal Bridges from Villanova. However, the Bulls do get Miles Bridges from Michigan State. And then rounding out my top 10, the Hornets going with Colin Sexton, the guard from Alabama.
I can't wait to talk about that Kings pick, Ricky. Dave, give us your 1 through 10.
My 1 through 10 goes like this. Grizzlies starting off making the right decision, go with Luka right at number 1. Number 2, the Suns are going to take DeAndre Ayton. 3, the Hawks are going to take Michael Porter Jr. 4, the Magic going with Jaren Jackson Jr. I feel bad. I know Magic, Trae Young. I'm sorry. I broke what I was saying. 5, though, I've got the Cavs taking Trae Young. 6, the Mavs taking Mo Bamba. He's back in my top 10. 7, I've got the Kings taking Marvin Bagley, the 3rd. I've got the Knicks going Mikal Bridges. I've got the Bulls going with Miles Bridges. And I have the Hornets rounding out with Kevin Knox.
There you go. The guy from Kentucky and really carrying that team so far. Kentucky looking dangerous in the tourney. And now let's go to my top 10. At 1, the Grizzlies, who have lost, 19 games in a row, 18 games in a row. Absolutely ridiculous.
We don't got to worry about them
engaged tank
tanking,
mode
though.
so hard.
Grizzlies absolutely just
But the Bulls,
falling out.
we got to worry about the Bulls and their tank.
Anyways.
We're still not over it.
Grizzlies going in number 1 with Luka Doncic, the guard from overseas. Number 2, Phoenix Suns going with DeAndre Ayton. 3, the Atlanta Hawks going with Marvin Bagley III. 4, Magic going with Michael Porter Jr. 5, the Cavs via the Nets going Jaren Jackson Jr. 6, the Mavericks going with Mo Bamba. 7, the Kings going with Mikal Bridges. 8, the Knicks going with Trae Young. 9, the Bulls going with Miles Bridges. And 10, the Charlotte Hornets getting the replacement for Kemba Walker in Colin Sexton. Well, I'm just saying, I think that we talked about this before, but Kemba most likely
could get shipped.
If they're going to be changing up things, he most likely will be shipped. But let's jump into it. The first thing we got to talk about is Dave and I have Luka Doncic number 1. Ricky, you have him at 7 to the Kings. So let's go through this a little bit. Why is Luka all the way down there? Because consistently, he's been in your top 2 for the past 3 mock drafts.
And I mean, for me, the big thing is 1-2 especially is the Grizzlies could have gone. Originally, I had them go with Michael Porter Jr. Then after these last 2 tourney games, I'm like, you know what? He's not who we thought he was, and I can't put him at number 1. And for the Grizzlies, they're a team for me. I am on the mindset of, I know you have Marc Gasol, trade his ass. Get him out of town. Draft DeAndre Ayton, who's the number 1 pick in this draft in my mind. Get him, younger center. You can trade Gasol for something, anything in this league. And then the Suns are just, we need to take a big because we were going to go with Ayton. They're going to go with a guy in Triple J. And then as I was going through the Hawks, the Magic, like the Magic were the one, Luka could have gone there, but I'm not going to do that to you again. I know we talked about this last week, Dave. Not going to get into it right now. I gave you got Mario Hezonja. You're not really happy with him. Not going to do that to you yet again, Trae Young. And I was going down. It just seemed like, hey, Kings, it seems like a fit. Seems like a fit for them. International player. This wouldn't be a reach for them either. Like they like to do in the past.
Well, hold on. This would not be a reach. This would be a gift.
That's a Papa John's joke that I threw out there.
Okay. But I'm just saying, though, this would be an absolute gift.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for most people, this is their number 1 player on their big board, Luka Doncic. So the fact that he's falling this low is insane. So looking at this, one question I do have, and Dave, you can jump in here.
Absolutely.
Looking at all of these guys, we look at the potential, and everyone looks at Luka Doncic and saying, "Oh, he's not athletic. He doesn't have the same, superstar potential." But one thing we see with Luka is the overall game is there. He's one of the most polished games, but that's not sexy. So the thing with that is you look at, DeAndre Ayton, monster, 7'1". You look at Jaren Jackson, again, same monster as well, 6'11", a little bit smaller, but still a guy that can look like an absolute monster. Marvin Bagley, probably the most athletic player for his size in this draft. Like, Luka Doncic isn't really a sexy pick, and especially with the ways these guys have played in college, Ayton, Jackson, Bagley, Trae Young, Michael Porter, well, not really Porter, but, those guys, what they've done so far in college and what they've done in high school, going number one international is pretty ridiculous with at least the guys in this draft and the name power that they have. So why does Luka Doncic deserve to go one over all of these other kids, Dave?
All right. So in my mind, Luka deserves number one because at 18, like you said, he is polished for his age. He has been playing with professionals for multiple years now. He is competitive on an international scene where the level of competition is higher than what you see in college. He's played against NBA pros with tournaments like the worldwide tournaments. You just see him going against top-level talent and showing that he can hold his own against them. And you hear the compliments coming out of guys like Goran Dragic, who were his teammates, and everything is so positive. You hear stuff about his work ethic and his IQ, and I don't like that they made the comparison like he's as committed to the game as like Kobe was. He lives for basketball. When he's not playing basketball, he's thinking basketball. He's like working towards his basketball career. And the potential for him, there's the lazy comparisons of like he's like hyper Manu Ginobili. Like that could be like higher upside than Manu, somewhere between Manu and James Harden, because you get the lack of athleticism, but at the same time, the size, the ball handling skills, and the ability to contribute and the mind for the game is just so high that the only thing that leads to concern, honestly, for me, is how he comes back from this injury. He's been in a little bit of a shooting slump, but then it came out that he's been playing hurt for a little bit. So I think that's the only way in my mind that he would not be the number one pick. I get the not sexy, but at the same time, I just respect him overall from a basketball standpoint.
Ricky, how much do you think that played into it? Because we've seen these players, Ayton, Jackson, Bagley, Young, Porter, Bamba, all these players play in the tournament in college. We haven't seen Luka really go up against that same competition. Again, I know it's different competition, but we are not seeing Luka Doncic on our TVs every single night just because of, he's overseas.
The thing that goes into it, it's not really that part of it. It's like Dave said with the whole, he was talking about thinking about basketball like Kobe. But I'm going to go, and this isn't going to be a hot take or anything, but he's not Kobe.
Yeah.
He's not he's not the player to me where I'm going to draft him. Him alone is going to help me get to the NBA Finals. I need a team around him. And that's why the Cavs. Yeah, they could draft him, but I look at that team and,
real quick, with Kobe needed a team around him. He needed Paul. He needed Andrew Bynum. He needed Shaq. I mean, look at the times where he was putting up 30 points a game. He wasn't making the playoffs.
I'm not saying he is Kobe Bryant.
No,
I know.
And that's what I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
Who is the guy out of Notre Dame who came out in big like Cam, smart like Tom?
Yeah.
You want to pull the best aspects of these players.
And I'm not saying
and say that's kind of what he's aiming at.
And I'm not saying you were. I'm going off on the other side of, but he's not Kobe. Like, he is not that guy to where, I'm going to LeBron James it, of like, James is on my team, we can win the finals. Like, he's not that player to me. And like a Manu Ginobili. If Manu Ginobili didn't have the rest of the Spurs around him, can Ginobili by himself win them a championship? No. And that's where, he could have went to the Cavs in my mock. But no, I want to go with a guy like Michael Porter Jr., want to go with a guy who is probably going to play the 4 in the NBA. Then you go with the Mavericks. Yeah, they could have, but I'm going to go with the big and a defensive stopper down low and Bamba. And then with the Magic could have as well, but you know what? I'm going to go with that could have been the only one that's the closest. I'll go with the electrifying kid in Trae Young over a Luka Doncic.
Okay, here's one question, though. You talk about winning an NBA championship. We saw DeAndre Ayton's team get absolutely blown out by Buffalo because they stopped the guards and they weren't able to get the ball down low to DeAndre Ayton. We've seen Michael Porter Jr. come back not 100% from his injury. We've seen that the quickness isn't there. We've seen that the lateral movement isn't there. Again, he's saying that he's 60 to 70%, so we got to take that into effect. But again, we don't know what Michael Porter Jr. is going to be. Marvin Bagley is still going to be the same player. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be bringing the ball up. He's not going to be able to take over games exactly like a LeBron James or Kobe is. So you're talking about, I think it's right now six bigs before Luka Doncic there, where Luka is a primary ball handler. The only guy that isn't is Trae Young. What makes those guys more worth it to go with those players over Luka Doncic?
The thing I look with most of these,
going at least with your thing of this player will take me to an NBA final.
I look at most of these teams: Grizzlies, Suns, Hawks, Cavs, Mavericks, Magic. They all have a primary ball handler. They all have a guy to where it's like, he's my primary ball handler.
Do the Magic?
The Suns?
The Magic, I would say so, that the Suns do. I mean,
they don't have a facilitator.
I would say, I'm not saying
they have
facilitator
right now. I mean, but he's not for sure going to be there.
Yeah. And that's the thing but the Suns to me, they're a team where they're going big. Like, they are banking on if the pick is where it is right now, they're banking DeAndre Ayton falls them. They are going with a big guy, I believe, with their first-round pick, no matter what it is. Every other team, though, like especially with the Cavs with LeBron, you got Dennis Smith in Dallas. You've got the Magic are the one where, okay, but like I'm giving them the
DJ Augustine's not the future?
No, it's not. But like the Hawks have Schroeder, the Grizzlies have Conley, to where I'm like, you know what, let me shore up my backcourt instead of that. And it's like Doncic, I'll be honest, the whole international thing, I'm not really solid on is he going to be the piece to help me win a championship in the NBA, because even with college, you can't really do the whole, well, how many championships did you win in college? Because like Steph didn't win one, Durant didn't win one.
Well, it's
how many
different,
guys?
yeah.
There's so many teams.
You have
It's
1
like,
year to really hit gold, and then you're done if you're a good player.
unless
so.
you're Steph, you get like 2
Well,
or 3.
Yeah, but then again, he was on a mid-major.
Yeah.
So,
But like, it's just because you didn't. I don't care what your success part of where you are is not going to mean that like, oh, I won a championship in college, I won a championship overseas, doesn't mean I'm going to win an NBA Finals.
well, and one thing I want to bring up is just the reason why I went Grizzlies with Luka is just because he seems like a player that fits that Memphis mold. He's a great all-around basketball player. Again, he's not going to wow you. I mean, he's going to wow you with some of the passes. I mean, some of the passes he's been pulling off overseas has been absolutely ridiculous. But overall, he's not going to be the most impressive player on a court. Marvin Bagley probably is the most impressive player, like watching him on the floor. Like, this kid has every skill all around. But the one thing is that, you know, Luka Doncic can be relied on for so many different things, and that seems like a Memphis pick. You look at Mike Conley. Mike Conley is a two-way guard. Marc Gasol was a defensive player of the year, and now he's shown that he's one of the best offensive bigs as well. I mean, Marc Gasol is probably one of the most underrated bigs for the past couple of years. He's consistently a top 5 big in the league, but he doesn't get that respect because he's out in Memphis. You see all of these players that, you know, are just well-rounded basketball players in Memphis, and I feel like that's just a natural fit for what they look for in players, and I think that should be something that every team should look at, because if the Grizzlies go Ayton, the Suns looking at him, Doncic could be a perfect fit for them, because you look at that 3 spot for Luka. Luka most likely is going to be defending 3s, probably 2s, or, you know, it's not really sure where he's going to be defensively, but he at least fits that role, because right now they have Josh Jackson, but Josh Jackson can always move to the 2. We see that as well, but they can always flip, and we saw that Josh Jackson can be a great defender as well.
Oh
so
my God. He's really come on well late in the season too.
So Josh Jackson could be the guy that takes over for whoever is, you know, the better player offensively, and Luka can just switch to the other one. Devin Booker can just take the worst offensively.
You just try to hide that man.
Exactly. You can have so many different, you know, switches defensively for them, and then offensively, we've seen Luka be, you know, show the ability to be at least a primary ball handler for a team, and that's what the Suns need. They have Bender, they have Chris. They don't need a ton of size. They can always bring back Tyson Chandler. I think he's still under contract for another year as well. So they don't really need to address that big situation. I feel like if I'm a team and I'm an NBA GM, I'm looking for a player that I know is going to be at least a player that's going to be here for the next 10 years. And Luka, I feel like, isn't going to bust. He might not be a superstar, but I think he's consistently going to be a starter in the NBA. And I know there's so many sexy picks like Ayton, Jackson, Bagley, Trae Young, Michael Porter, but none of these guys are for sure things. You're just picking them off their body and what they could become, where Doncic is right now pretty much not a finished product, but there's not a lot of work for him to do. He can step in day one and be an NBA starter and not be, you know, hidden. He might come in, you know, average 15, 5, and 5. I mean, he can be a all-rounded player.
And that's the thing where with the Suns and even the Grizzlies, where one of the main reasons why I'm like go with DeAndre Ayton number 1 is not just because of what we've seen this season with Ayton, but you mentioned Marc Gasol, and I look at Gasol, and it's like, yeah, could you be underrated? Yeah, but I think that I want to use the word fit, but I'm not sure if that's entirely what I want to use.
Okay.
The whole situation in Memphis, I think Memphis and Gasol need a divorce. They just need to break apart. We're not good for you. You're not good for us. Plus, it's like by the time he's a free agent, he's going to be 35. Yep. Am I going to want to re-sign him and then have to worry about that position right now when I could be the number 1 pick and get a guy like DeAndre Ayton? Same thing with the Suns. Tyson Chandler's 35 right now. Yeah, he can sign for a 1-year deal, but you're kicking that can down the road.
Well, the thing is, like, Tyson Chandler is he's not relying on his age really for his game at this point. He's got old man game and he does it well, and I think you have to respect that. Marc Gasol, like, I think that he will still be a valuable player at 35. Like, that's not a problem in my mind. My question comes to DeAndre Ayton had made previous comments about, I'm a power forward. I'm not a center.
I was going to bring that up.
So if he's playing the Anthony Davis game of, like, I don't want to be center. I want to be a power forward. get me somebody to work next to. And him fitting in, I could see where he could fit in next to a Marc Gasol. I could see how that could work out, but I also think that like it just for him, maybe that's a better spot for him, and he knows that. And it's just, are you concerned at all if he doesn't want to play center for you?
I mean, with me, I'm a little bit because like the one thing when I looked at like his film compared to Bagley is most of his outside shots, he was really around the rim guy, where it's like, give me the mid range, give me around the rim. If he stepped out from three, it was like, it's not going to be that great, DeAndre. And with my four in today's NBA, I would like more of a stretch four than the power four.
But we have seen Ayton near the elbow, near the top of the key. He's got a pretty sweet jumper. I mean, like for his size right now, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
I mean,
he can work on the shot. Yeah, but right now, I don't trust that three ball.
No, but I'm saying mid range game.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be stretching the floor exactly like
like a stretch, like Kristaps.
Yeah, like a Kristaps has, or
like how Laurie for the Bulls, like we drafted him to be the stretch four.
But you can at least move him out of the paint.
Yeah.
And Ayton's shown that he's got a decent jumper from that size.
But he does have a hammer too when he gets into the paint.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, he's going to be able to work. I mean, it's going to be similar probably to not exactly Ja's game, but like at least from that from the top of the key to the rim, that's where Ayton's going to work. Exactly. They're different players. Ja was so smooth down low. I'm not saying Ayton, doesn't have a smoothness to his game, but Ja's offensive game was just ridiculous. With, working from 15 feet in. So that's the one thing with Ayton is, obviously there's concerns there because he's not a natural three-point shooter, but Anthony Davis coming out of college wasn't a natural three-point shooter. Joe's worked on his
shooting. You can work on
exactly.
Like you can work on shooting. There's a reason why Ayton's my number one pick.
And again, just going with that, and thanks for bringing it up, Dave, because I was going to. You saw the lineup with Ristich and Ayton. Ayton was playing more of the four. He's defined as a forward on the Arizona website. It's just something that I don't think that really worries me. I kind of like that, saying that I am a forward, because it just shows that you know what you are, and you have that confidence in yourself, and I like that confidence. I know some people are kind of driven away with it. Some people with like Baker Mayfield.
That's exactly it.
In the NFL, they're just taken away from his confidence.
Right.
I like that confidence in not only yourself, but also what you're able to do on the floor. I think it's something that you might need to work on, because he might not be exactly a four in the NBA right now. But again, you can work on it to get him up to that spot.
To me, then that solidifies like every point you're making. Then is, to me, more ammo for my basket to have the Ayton in number one, because who would you rather have? DeAndre Ayton at your four, or JaMychal Green, Jarrell Martin, Ivan Rabb, or Bryce Johnson?
Yeah, no, there's also free agency, but at the same time,
exactly.
I totally get it. Like I think it's only possible that he can do this now because you've seen the success of KP with a true center next to him in Enes Kanter. You've seen what Boogie plus AD. You've seen what Cat can do when he has a center and he gets to play at that four. Like there's so many guys who have been able to open up their game because the NBA is starting to realize just because you're 7 feet tall doesn't mean you have to be within 3 feet of the rim anymore. Like I think it's actually the best possible move for him, because honestly, like his offensive post game is good, but like defensively, like the man has no IQ.
I would
like, he for his size, his wingspan, he's being outperformed by smaller guys, and that's where I'm like, if you put him at the four, he has the speed enough for his size to actually keep up with fours. So I think that's actually like, I almost want to push him. Like, no, you're totally right. Let's keep you at the four, and I think that regardless, like he can go between, but I'm on the side of four is probably the right answer.
Just the one more I want to throw in there, kind of like I think of Draymond Green as well, where it's like, you know what, we don't need you to play the center because we've got, of course, it's a throwaway center for the Warriors in most cases. Zaza, well, the ankle breaker, literally.
Yeah.
But having that there, and they can move him out too.
Well, and the one thing too that I just want to go up and tie the Ayton Doncic thing up in a bow is just the Karl Anthony Towns situation, where Cat has no defensive IQ, doesn't really seem like he cares defensively. The one difference though with Ayton and Karl Anthony Towns is offensively, I have more belief in Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that right now, DeAndre Ayton is big, and he's very athletic. I mean, there's a play in a game at Oregon where he gets the ball at half court. He's dribbling up. No one picks him up, and he just attacks the rim, and it's disgusting. Like, I was afraid. Like, I'll check under my bed for DeAndre Ayton. But, again, I don't know if he has that offensive that all-around offensive game like Cat does, where, you look at the number one overall pick. I want a player that I'm going to be sure that's going to be able to give me everything that I need, that in the last 2 minutes, he can do whatever I need him to do, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that defensive side out of him. So when I look at Luka all around, that's why he's number one for me, and that's why I think that he should be number one for most teams. Is yes, he might not be the most sexiest pick out there, but he is the most all-around and natural basketball player.
He's a Swiss Army knife. That's exactly what he is in my mind.
But anyways, let's move away from the Luka talk. Ricky having him down at 7. Dave and I having him at 1. We talked a little bit about DeAndre Ayton. Let's talk about some of these bigs here. Jaren Jackson, Marvin Bagley, Michael Porter Jr., Mo Bamba, all these guys in our top 7. Yeah, 7, where Dave has him, Marvin Bagley going to the Kings. Let's talk a little bit about these guys. Let's focus on Porter first. You guys talked about him last week. We've seen now 2 games out of him, the SEC tournament and the game against Florida State. Again, he doesn't look like he's healthy out there. He doesn't look like he's really attacking the basketball. But one thing that I did like in the SEC game is that he was consistently calling for the ball late in that game, and I like that mentality from him. The shots weren't there. He hit one of the threes. The shots weren't falling for him, but something in me just says that this is something that is just an injury-based thing. He wasn't ready to come and play. He wasn't sure if he was 100% healthy, but he wanted to be there for his team. I felt like that was something that really shows the character of him. And looking at him, what he's been able to do before, I think that this is mostly his performance was hindered by his injuries, and he just wasn't ready to come back. And I'm still not weary on what he's going to be in the NBA. It's just really what is he going to show in the combine? And if he shows out and has a great combine, then this kid's the number 1 player in my draft. If the Grizzlies are picking number 1, I'm going Michael Porter Jr. if he comes out and has a great combine.
I originally had that until after last night. I looked and I was like, I know you can't base it off of one game, but I just couldn't do it. And for me, having him at the Cavs, we were discussing before the podcast, is he going to be a 3? Is he going to end up being a 4 in the NBA? And let's say he even is a 4. The Cavs, to me, if LeBron stays, they don't need him to play 3. He's not going to play guard or any of the guard positions. You can have him play center and kind of do a little mix matching with a Love, a TT, Porter down there, and he doesn't have to be the main guy for Cleveland.
So I just feel like he's that's redundant for me because you have Kevin Love under contract still. I get it, Porter's different from Love, but it seems like a loaded position already.
If Love gets injured, he's been getting injured the past couple of years.
No, that actually fair enough point. For me, I just think I agree that the speed isn't there, and it comes down to if you can't have the speed to keep up with the 3s in the NBA, I have no problem moving him to the 4. He has a body to play a 4.
Oh, he looks massive out there.
He will build out, that's not a concern. For me, it's more so, how well is he going to be able to get back to real in-game shape? And honestly, how he forced himself into the lineup, you said calling for the ball a lot was good for you. For me, it concerned me because I feel like he came back, and that team didn't look like a team anymore. That team had been successful without him. And honestly, he threw off their game plan in my mind because he tried to insert himself into that team and was like, "Nuh-uh, I'm back. It's my show."
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think it's concerning for the Missouri basketball team that happened, but we're talking about the NBA prospects of this kid. And the fact that he it wasn't even the fact that he probably demanded it. I think people just knew he was back, and they're like, okay, it's Michael's team now. I think that was the thing. It's just they knew the presence of Michael Porter Jr. They knew what he can bring to the floor, and even though that he wasn't 100%, they're like, all right, we got to change the game to get him involved. And it wasn't really they were force feeding him or anything. They were giving him the ball, and he was trying to work. It was definitely not 100% because they weren't able to get shooters open, and they were doing that a ton during the season. And it obviously hurt their team as they lost 2 games with Mike back in the lineup. But I still look at it, and I think that he is such a presence on the basketball floor that it's just going to be too hard for teams to pass up if he shows back and comes up healthy. The one thing that was surprising watching him play, though, is how big he actually is. Because, when you hear 6'10", you're like, okay, but you felt like he was going to be a little bit smaller, maybe comparable to LeBron's size at least, but he even looks weirdly enough bigger than KD, and KD is constantly talked about being 7 feet tall, but size wise he looked more of an Anthony Davis out there than he did an actual 6'10" forward. So I don't think he is a 3. I think I agree with you on that, but I think that he isn't going to be a stretch 4. I think that he might have the ability to at least in some cases run sets where he is the guy that can at least handle the ball because he's got some sweet handles. The passing wasn't there to my liking, but then again, I can blame a little bit on injuries, and I still look at him, the body and the athleticism of him. I still think that he has the potential to still go number 1. It's just the injuries that are holding me back from putting him number 1.
That's the thing, like that back injury and how he looked coming back where, am I concerned about either relapses or maybe, if there's anything where, didn't quite heal all the way and he's pushed himself to come back early. I know he's medically cleared, but he wasn't in game shape. So that's, for me, it's just that lingering concern's always back there. And I agree. If he balls out at the combine, he is a fantastic talent with, insane potential. But at the same time, that back injury plus, what kind of shape are you going to show up in? Are you going to be able to keep yourself, built like a brick shit house, or are you going to turn around and, slow it down, get, it's too much of a question mark for me to have him any higher than 3 right now. I think the Hawks, for me, I've got him going to the Hawks because of that. I'm like, this is a team who could use someone who can take over games. And I agree that he can do. It's just the injury concern is there. So maybe they get lucky and he comes back, looks good, and they get him at 3 and it's a steal. Or maybe, he has some questions still, and who knows how bad if he falls.
Yeah, the one thing, too, with me going to Magic, I know that's not a great fit because you look at Aaron Gordon right there, you look at the size of that Magic team.
They just need another starter. That's what they
need.
Yeah.
It's not a natural fit there. But again, I just look at Michael Porter Jr., and I think that he's too big of a star to pass up. And it's something where I just I feel like, coming into the year, he was still my number 1 player, and seeing him on the floor, it hurt his stock in my mind just because he wasn't 100% there. But even at 60 and 70%, just what he kind of demanded on the floor, and it wasn't even seem like it was a vocal demand, but just what he demanded on the floor and the attention that he drew from other teams, like that's just a sign of respect that I think that just talks about what his game is at 60%. Like they were. Not really game planning it for him, but they were, looking to slow him down as much as possible. They didn't want to get him started because that Mizzou team would just kickstart if they started going. So that was one thing that you saw Florida State do, and I think I can't think of the team that they played in the Georgia that they did that they really just tried to take him out of the ball game and make him play 4-on-5, which they did successfully. But 100% Michael Porter Jr. isn't going to do that. So I look at the fit. The fit really isn't there for the Magic, but I think with the Magic you got to go BPA. You have Isaac, you have Aaron Gordon. But I feel like there's even trade talks about Aaron Gordon. I just feel like you need to go with the star. And the biggest star on that board right now is Michael Porter Jr., and that's why they go with him at 4.
Question for you. Even more, and this isn't necessarily game because I know he's so polarizing. Bigger star than Trae Young.
Yes.
Because Trae Young is technically still on your board at that time.
Yeah, I would say that Trae Young, I would say, it's
if you're
different.
the Magic and you're going star, like...
Well, it's different in the fact that I'm saying more of what he can turn into.
Yeah,
like right
you're
now,
talking potential. I'm talking what they are right now.
Yeah, well, Trae Young's a bigger star, no question. Yeah. Trae Young was the
media.
He's still leading scorer in college basketball. I mean, he was ridiculous this year. But I'm saying more of Jimmer was the biggest star in that draft, but he wasn't. He didn't end up being the biggest star. I'm talking potential wise. What?
Just the Jimmer reference.
Well, it's true. Jimmer was the biggest star in that draft.
I looked at Dave like, wow, anyone from BYU basketball team being the big star, man.
Yeah.
Jimmer was the Naismith Player of the Year. He was the biggest star, dropping 32 points a game or whatever
Buddy
it was.
Wooden Award winner. Put some respect on it.
So, I mean, I'm talking potential-wise. I think Porter Jr. can be the biggest star in the draft. So that's where I think that the Magic will just go with the biggest star, even though the fit really isn't there. And, Ricky, while I like the fit to the Cavs, at least Porter Jr. on the Cavs, it's just something that I don't know if that's going to work with the current dynamic of them. And looking at that team, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Trae Young's already off the board on you, but I think that if the Cavs had a choice there, especially with the looming possibility of LeBron leaving, with Luka still on the board, I think they would go Luka if I'm the Cavs.
Like I said,
you bring it up before.
Could have gone there.
Yeah.
Could have gone there.
I feel like that would be the pick at the Cavs if Luka's still on the board and Porter Jr.'s on the floor. Luka's more of a fit, and Luka's also more of a trade bait, I would say, because he is healthier, and we know what we're going to get out of him. But anyways, out of these bigs outside of Ayton, or if you like a big better than Ayton, you just want to put him there, who do you, out of the bigs that we have, Ayton, Bagley, Porter Jr., because we count him as a 4 now, Jaren Jackson, Mo Bamba, what prospect do you like the best? What player would you feel, if you had the choice of any of these guys, would you go with as your choice?
Mo Bamba. And the reason why is...
Over Ayton, really?
No, you're saying behind
outside of Ayton.
No, I was including Ayton.
Oh, Ayton's my number 1.
Okay, and then both Bamba's 2.
I almost had Bamba go 2 to the Suns. Only because, I look at Bamba, and it's all for... Right now, he's my 4th. But I feel like when all said is done, I know I said that weird, but just roll with it.
Yep.
I even thought about it too because I knew I was going to say it wrong. But when everything is all said and done, that's what I meant to say.
Nailed it.
I think that we could be looking back at Mo Bamba being like, man, there's a lot of teams that passed on him that shouldn't have passed on him. Yeah, he's got to bulk up a little bit. He's a guy that in his game, defensively, I like him. I like what he brings offensively down low. I seriously look at the 3-ball isn't completely there. I think he can develop that, though, and be a guy he's a big that can play in, out, and be a defensive rim stopper.
Well, the one thing that I liked about
Shouldn't
his
have
game,
been called for that foul either.
Yeah, I didn't like that game. The one thing that I want to bring up real quick, this is totally not about prospects, but DeAndre Ayton, not Bagley, but DeAndre Ayton, Mo Bamba, Trae Young, Colin Sexton, all of these guys are the only players on their team. Everybody else, not that great. I mean, Roach had a nice game in the tournament for Texas. Colin Sexton has that kid who can shoot from the outside. I can't think of his name right now.
Trae Young had a bunch of guys who turned over the basketball.
Trae Young's team sucks.
And Ayton technically had a couple guys who were thought to be good, but showed the season pretty much.
Alkins and then
Lonzo Trier.
And then Lonzo Trier. All those guys were just bad at basketball. So I mean, like we had some of those guys in our first mock. There's a reason none of the Arizona guards or forwards besides Ayton are in our first round because
that team stopped caring.
These guys they stopped caring, and it's just something where it's just like none of these guys had help around them. And when you look at Mo Bamba and DeAndre Ayton, they had no one to get them the ball, so they could just focus in on DeAndre Ayton and Mo Bamba and just take them out of the game. So that's one thing that I just look at, and you really can't base a ton off of what they did in college, except when they were able to create. So you can't look at stat sheets for DeAndre Ayton and Mo Bamba or Trae Young and Colin Sexton because they were asked to do so much, or they weren't able to do exactly what they needed to do. And
Bagley is different because he's the one big that has the most complete team around him.
That's true.
And he's also probably the most impressive player on the floor.
Like I know that before the podcast, I know this is only one game and don't take too much into it, but you look at the last tournament game that they just played today where it was like we're talking, Wendell Carter Jr.'s leading scorer. Oh, look at Gary Trent Jr. And then Dave over here talking smack on Bagley, like, what's Bagley doing? He's not doing it. Because he doesn't have to do anything.
But and then he finishes at the leading scorer with 22 points.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair, and I totally get it.
That's because someone slipped him a stat sheet and said, hey, Marvin, pick it up.
Jaren Jackson also has a pretty complete team around him.
Yeah, but Jaren Jackson, the thing is, like, I love Jaren Jackson. I think all he needs to do is, like, quit getting in foul trouble, but I think that's part of, like, the physical defense that Michigan State does. Yeah, that's fine, but like I think he is like the prototype for what you want in a 4-5. Like this guy stretches the floor, shoots well, defends amazingly well. Like you talk about Mo Bamba and his like wingspan and his defense. Like Jaren Jackson's doing more with less. And that's what's impressive to me.
There's a reason why Triple J is my second big.
Which I love that you finally gave him the respect because before
I wanted to put. I'll be honest. I wanted to put Bamba there. Yeah. I did. I really wanted to put Mo Bamba there.
I just think that they're like that's the thing. Bamba is special in the fact that I don't know we've seen like two guys with similar wingspan to him and defensive prowess, but like I look at Jaren Jackson, I'm like, this is exactly what you want. If you're an NBA like GM and you're like, what does a 4 mean to you? What does a 5 mean to you? Like that guy. Yeah. That guy right there.
It's hard to disagree with that. And there's and you look at my board, Ayton, Bagley, Porter Jr. all go before Jaren Jackson Jr. It's just one thing that I look with Jaren Jackson. I think the fit for the Cavs is absolutely beautiful because I don't think he is ever going to be a guy that takes over a game. I don't think he's ever going to be a Tim Duncan where he's like the best one of the best players on the floor out there. I don't think he's going to be that guy, like an Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins kind of player. I think he just might be again like in kind of the vein of Luka, where he just has an all-around game that works in team basketball. I don't think I don't think he's ever going to be. I don't know if he's going to be a star. I'm not going to say he's never going to be a star because that's just ridiculous. But I don't know if he's ever going to be a star. But he's always going to be a starter. And I think he's always going to consistently be on the floor and consistently be a positive for teams. And that's something that he might not light up the stat sheet in the NBA, but he's consistently going to be doing everything well for a team. But that's why, Porter Jr., I think he can be an absolute star. Ayton and Bagley, I think they have those abilities to really take over games where I don't know if Jackson has that ability. That's why I have him at 5. But people look at his body and the 4-5 and the way he plays his game. Totally understand why he's some of people's
the question is as the minutes increase and the workload increases, is he going to be your second best player or third best player? Like I think you're right. I don't expect him to go out and be the stud on a team. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm saying like I can see him being that guy who can contribute at a high level at like 30 minutes a game. That in my mind, that is exactly like that's his fit for me. I still have Porter going ahead of him. I still have Ayton going ahead of him because, like you said, the potential to be the one on a team is so high that I think that value jumps them. But I don't believe that Bagley has that same potential.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why my number one big is, even over Ayton, is Porter Jr. If we're putting him as a big
four,
now, if we're putting him as a 4, he's the number one guy. Because I look at him, and I think Bagley and Porter Jr. have the ability to be ones on a team. And the player that I trust the most to do that is Michael Porter Jr.
Wouldn't logic, though, tell you that? Because didn't you say like 2 seconds ago he's your number 1 overall?
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm just I want to state it.
Now
We're having a conversation now about who's your favorite big.
But but if he's your number 1 and you move into the big, of course he's going to be the number 1 big.
I'm just throwing it into the conversation, Rick. The question was, who's your favorite big outside of Ayton? I'm saying even with Ayton, I'm going with Porter.
Common sense, logic.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm just. It was a while on the podcast. We're in a jump cut. Anyways, that was the talk about the bigs. Now let's go to the guards. Trae Young, Colin Sexton. I said this before, that Colin Sexton is a better NBA prospect than Trae Young. I said this, I think, on a mock draft. The only reason why I have him below is I think he has a better fit on the Knicks.
Can I take the floor for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Say something. So I have to eat crow a little bit. And the reason why was on my big board, I had Colin Sexton like 20, I want to say. Or like
the most
16?
recent one?
Yeah, the most recent one. This was heading into the conference tournaments.
Oh, okay.
I had him in our first segment, which was
is that because you just didn't watch
16.
Colin Sexton play?
No, I did.
That all year,
I just didn't.
3 on 5 versus Minnesota.
I looked at it and I was like, it was what we talked about. I'm like, you know what? He's great for his team, but that's all his team has. And then he balls out in the conference tournament. So, of course, NBA draft is not the exact same as a big board. I got him at 10, but I had to say that because I know there's going to be a few people that are like, oh, Ricky, I thought you had him 16 on your big board for the last one. He's going to be a little higher on the last one.
Yeah, but he is still behind Trae Young across the board for all of us. I think that's because what Trae Young can bring to the table, which is just bonkers level of shooting. And honestly, his assist numbers are already amazing, but they could be better if he had talent around him, which is scary.
Well, and again, I want to bring up that his points are ridiculous, his assists are crazy, and yes, they could be higher with his teammates, but looking at that team, there's a reason he has literally one of the highest usages in college basketball history. That man is being used 40% of the time. Like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't happen ever. Like, that's just outside of like mid-major schools, people from the MEAC conference. I don't know. I'm just throwing the American conference.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen in big schools from the Big 12. That doesn't happen. Like BYU, sure, Davidson, yeah. This is the most usage on a player in a top 5 Power 5 school ever. Like, Trae Young was being asked to do so much. And that's one thing with Trae Young is we saw everything great with Trae Young. We saw everything okay about Trae Young, and we saw everything terrible about Trae Young. So we have seen everything we need to see out of Trae Young. Like, we haven't seen anything like, oh, what are questions about this? What are questions about that? We're not going to be surprised what Trae Young does in the NBA.
I do have one question for you guys, actually. And that's just because we've seen him have to carry this load. So what do you think he looks like when he's not the best player on his team?
And I want to get
Do you think he can play team ball?
I want to get into that a little bit because during the Oklahoma, this last tournament loss to Rhode Island, I had one of our Twitter followers, one of mine, Mike2K_797, sent me at Ricky Widmer thoughts on Trae Young's shot selection. This is going to get into that draft thing that you said. And I said, missed 35-footer or teammate turnover, same result. I'll take my chances on the shot. Kind of sunglass emoji. And then Mike said, my concern is that is if this over-volume deep shot selection continues at the next level. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be because I'm hoping that whatever team, and for the Magic, that would not happen because they have 11 starters, that the team that he has right now, it's, I'm going to take this shot. I'm going to take all these shots. Because if I give it to you, you're going to turn it over and we don't get the basket. At least I know my ability, and it's a 50-50 chance that we make this basket.
Well, like
so
40, but yeah.
You get my point.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's going to go over into the next level because I'm assuming that, and I know it's a lot of assuming, that he's going to have more of a complete team around him at the next level than he did at Oklahoma.
My big question with Trae Young, and I think that again, looking at him, I'm not worried about the team basketball aspect because, again, he was trying to win games there, knowing that was most likely his last season in college. I would be shocked if he doesn't come out or if he hasn't declared already.
Yeah.
I just haven't heard news. I know Ayton has. But with Trae Young...
Ayton couldn't do it soon enough.
Yeah, he did it right in the postgame. But with Trae Young, it's just something that he needed to win games. So that's why he's taking those shots. And I think that, it's going to be there in the NBA, but I think it's going to show itself more in the playoffs when he gets there because it's going to be more of a pressure to win games because when you're in an 82-game season, you can lose some games where you know, like, all right, hey, I'm going to pass it off to Aaron Gordon because we're trying to get easier buckets. Like, we're trying to get back in this game. Like, he has the ability to take over and possibly take some terrible shots, but I think it's going to be at the right time. He was trying to do that because he knew that his teammates around him at Oklahoma were doing absolutely nothing. He was the only guy that could do something.
And I think that was a weird balance for Trae Young. By the way, the last thing on him in NBA draft stock is his father wants him to heavily consider coming back to school. His dad wants him to heavily. Well, he's a Norman, Oklahoma guy.
Oh, okay.
His family's from Norman. That I can see why. But
I think his dad played at Texas Tech too.
I don't know exactly. You'd know more on that than I would. Mainly because you probably looked into it. But the thing with Trae Young that I even saw with the last game is it was kind of like a weird war going on in his head where it's like, I want to try to take over the game to win, but I don't want to be a selfish player. Yeah. And kind of balancing the selfishness with the unselfishness going on.
But I don't think it's selfishness. Because
it's not.
See, like there's a difference between selfishness
the
and
ownership.
Coming up. Yeah,
right.
It's just something where you just have confidence. Again, it's going back to confidence. He just had confidence in himself that he's going to be able to do this more than his teammates,
like
which
Steph.
has been proven
Steph
true throughout the whole year.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like we know that like this is something that again he's trying to win a game here. He's trying to advance in the NCAA tournament. Like. Throughout the year, he has not been a selfish player.
To get demolished by Duke, because that would have happened.
Okay, but still, winning a game, you're going to be in that game to at least have a shot. You don't know if it's going to happen.
No,
Probably
exactly.
not,
You could be a 16 upset of 1. Each game is its own thing.
Exactly. And the thing is just like, he saw what he was getting from his teammates, not only in that game, but also throughout the season. He knew that their best chance of winning was Trae Young taking over. And I bet his coach was like, all right, Trae, start shooting. And we saw it. He comes up the floor. He's got two Rhode Island guards next to him. And he fires up, I think, even further than an NBA three.
Yeah.
I think
it was on the logo almost.
I think it was
3 steps in.
I think it was on the right of the logo or something like that. And he hits it. It was nothing but net. And you're just like, that's what I want to see in a player because he has that confidence and he knows the need of what he needs from his team, and it's to hit a big shot.
I'm going to stop you right there. Because that's not what we need to see. Is
Kanye.
22 seconds on the shot clock, and he just literally just jacks a shot. Doesn't even attempt to run a play. Doesn't try to get a better look. But he's like, nah, it's on me.
I mean,
but that's the thing.
I get that.
No trust in the team.
Right, but do you think that, I guess the question for me is, like, do you think he has that mentality because it's a product of the system? And do you think it can be retaught him to play and run plays for guys, run through, different things, different sets?
Let him talk.
Okay.
Be an asshole.
I'm just answering.
These are hypotheticals.
It's all
Give me a second to actually, But that's the thing. I think it could be a product of the system, but at the same time, he's been doing this, obviously since high school. Because every one of these kids on a nationally ranked team has been the best player on their high school team. Probably they're either like 1 or 2. So they all come into college with that same mentality, and it's as they get older, as they fit in, guys are better than them, so they have to take a lesser role, and that's how it kind of filters into the NBA. So for him, best player in high school. Best player on his college team, and now I wonder if it's going to be able to be something that he can kind of rein in and be like, now we're going to run pick and roll and pick and pop sets all day in the NBA because that's what the game calls for versus I'm going to walk up the court and just drop a 40-footer on them.
Well, I think it has nothing to do with Trae Young. It's all about that, not the system. I'm going with the team.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's his circumstances.
So
I think right now.
He doesn't if I'm on a team and I'm sitting there going, do I have a better chance of putting the ball in the hoop by passing it to you or putting up a 35-footer on my own? If I am the better chance, I am going to go with that chance.
Well, let's take your scenario.
That means wins the game.
Let's take your scenario of the Magic. Like, Dave's saying, like, would that carry over to this Magic team that you're looking at with Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, Vucevic, and then Fournier? Like, would that still persist?
I would say that it would. Like, there are going to be times where, and that would be a Frank Vogel thing of like, you know what, like a shooter like that, you never want to tell him not to shoot. But it's going to be more of I feel like if he was on the Magic, it would be like, hey, you know what? If I'm feeling it and I want to take every once in a while, like learning himself, like, okay, when can I take those chances? When shouldn't I take those chances? He's going to have enough players there in Orlando to pass the ball to that, to me, would be a lot better than the guys he was playing with at Oklahoma.
And I agree with that sentiment, but at the same time, I think any legitimate coach, after watching a player walk up the court and take that shot that we're talking about, this, you're double covered.
I think he's coachable. It's not like he's not coachable.
But Pop sees that, and it's timeout and get your ass on the bench because what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's my concern.
He needs a coach.
I don't know that you would encourage that. I appreciate that he feels the need to put everything on his shoulders because that's what he's doing, and that's what's necessary for his college team. But I think that he has to change his game style to fit to the NBA. I don't know that he can come in and be that guy who's just like, nah, I got this, coach.
I don't think he needs to change it entirely because you look at Golden State. It would be like if Steph
Are you talking like Swaggy P? Because that's the shit that he pulls.
And he's on and he was on the Warriors with like Kerr to me is the guy where it's like, hey, you know what?
He's not going to the Warriors though.
I'm not going to
Magic.
I'm not going to. Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is it's all about the match with the coach. Like, Steph Curry, put him on the Spurs. Steph Curry's not going to be the same Steph Curry we have because Steve Kerr's the guy where it's like, you know what? You're going to do that? I'm going to let the players be players, and I'm going to very, like, hands-offy where Pop is very... boom, boom, do as I say. It's all about the system, not about you.
Since Steph had a different coach, though, we didn't see that from Steph early in his days.
Yeah, Mark Jackson days was completely different.
It was totally different.
Yep.
Coachable player. I think that it wouldn't be exactly like that. I think it's just because I don't know who the fucking coach of Oklahoma is because I don't really care.
But
Lon Kruger. Thank you. I think it's just something where nice job, Ricky.
Yeah.
I think it's just something with that is you saw that Trae Young was by far the best player on that team. So let Trae Young dominate because he can dominate. I think it's something where it was just more of the system and not the player. I think the player is a kid that has his head on straight. I think it's something that he's probably a coachable kid, and I don't think he's got a major ego to him. I don't think any of these kids really have a major ego to him. Maybe Aiden might have. But like outside of that, I mean, Trae Young, I feel like will be able to fit in an NBA system, and I feel like he can learn to play with a team around him, and especially with a guy like Fournier who's been putting up 18 points per game recently, or for the past couple of years. Aaron Gordon has really shown his ability to score. Vucevic as well. I feel like he'll be able to put trust more in his teammates. I think that's something that Frank Vogel, if Ricky's mock is how it turns out, is going to be able to be taught into him. The reason why I want to jump to Trae Young though and talk about Colin Sexton is my pick at 8. I have Trae Young going at 8 to the Knicks and Colin Sexton going to the Hornets at 10. The reason why I have Colin Sexton, even though I think, behind Trae Young in this mock, even though I think Colin Sexton's a better NBA prospect, is because looking at that Knicks lineup, you need a player that's a facilitator, you need a player that can shine in big moments, you need a player that can be a scorer next to Frank. Trae Young is more of that guy than Colin Sexton. Not saying that Colin Sexton isn't a great leader. You see, again, 3-on-5 game. You see the SEC tournament where he absolutely takes over and dominates. That's something that the leader is there. I just think that you need more of a scorer, and Trae Young has obviously shown that he's more of a natural scorer than Colin Sexton.
Are we ditching on Frank ever being the one? Or is he you do this, he is now your 2 guard?
I would say he's a 2. And I think the reason why I like it is because Trae Young has shown that he's not a great defender. Frank has shown that he can be a lockdown defender. So it's kind of something where the Clay and Steph thing, where you just flip them on the guard. That's a little bit worse. That's the thing that I like with that Knicks pairing. And then you also pair him with KP and possibly Enos as well if they bring him back. Like that could be a really nice offense. And Tim Hardaway Jr.
No, and I mean, because I know the thing that we've talked about with Frank is, right now we're going to have him at the 2, but the Knicks are going to try to still bring him over.
I mean, the kid's 19. He's younger than kids in this draft. Like, you got to understand that. He is not a finished player. When he came over, he was picked because this kid can lock down professionals defensively. He has the right motion for his shot, but he doesn't have the confidence yet to build up, and he's got to build up his frame as well. So I don't think I'm giving up on the 1 forever. I just think that right now, I'm happy that they gave in and moved him to the 2 where he's comfortable. And I think that, like you said, Trae Young's offense and facilitation ability would fit really well for that Knicks team.
Well, and if Frank isn't able to turn into the 1, then you have Trae Young to fall on. And that's something where, while Frank is learning and growing as a player, and then you could possibly turn him into, guards just switch off being the primary ball handler and the initiator, then you can at least have a guy that right away can step in, Trae Young, and be that guy. And one thing, too, with Trae Young is we saw physical guards really hurt him, but then that could be something that you could really take away with Frank and the size of KP and Enes Kanter, or even Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, like, you can help him out in ways on that Knicks team.
Yeah, there's the ability to cover up for your deficiencies. I agree with you. I think that's actually a fair fit.
That's why I think the Knicks are a better fit for the Knicks than Colin Sexton, because you need also a superstar in New York. When was the last time they took a superstar in the NBA draft?
Kristaps Porzingis.
No, I would say no.
People hated it. That was a joke.
I loved it. People hated it.
He's a star now.
Ricky. So the last one,
it was Patrick Ewing in 1985.
No, they didn't take that. They were gifted that.
Okay,
that
they
was
still
rigged.
selected him. Ricky, real quick though, how many times have we heard Dave say, "Do you know what the reaction was for that?" When we're talking about the Kristaps thing? That's like if we had a soundboard, it would be like that because you say it every fucking draft.
Stephen A. Smith with this is Phil Jackson needs to get out. He did need to get out of town, but good pick for Phil.
Anyways, and the Colin Sexton thing, I like the fit for New Orleans. I think that he's a top 10 guard though. So the fact that we had him outside the top 10 last year or last two or 2.0 was ridiculous. He should be a top 10.
I have him outside of my top 10.
And the reason why I put him there at 10 is, hey, we talked about the Hornets maybe trading Kemba Walker. I don't think that is necessarily like, oh, we didn't get it at the deadline, we're not trading him anymore. I could see them going point guard and saying, let's see what we can get for KW.
Final thing, Bulls going Miles Bridges. All of us have him going at number 9 with the Michigan State forward. Thoughts on Miles Bridges to the Bulls?
You know, the only thing I wanted to say about this, because Dave and I went into more detail about this last week, was I'm going to throw our boy Jake a shout out of, yeah, I didn't have Mikal fall to the Bulls like you. I saw a Twitter message between you and Sean. No, that's the thing. I hate the Knicks being before because they would take Mikal in my mock. I want Mikal to us, but yeah, just for you, didn't make Mikal fall. We go with Miles Bridges.
But Miles is a good consolation prize, right?
Yeah, I'd say he popped off in the first tourney game, and I think that he has a larger body of work to kind of see who he really is as a player. So it's not going to be a surprise to anyone what he brings to the table for this Bulls team. And I think, honestly, regardless of which bridges we land with, I'm happy. Just give me a bridge.
Well,
I'll cross it.
We got to build the bridge, baby.
It's the one thing where it's just you see the differences between the bridges. Mikal is going to be an all-around great player, a defensive stopper, where Miles, I think, will be shine more offensively compared to defensively. It's not like Miles is a bad defender.
Right.
He's not great. He's not going to be locked down like Mikal will be. But it's something where Miles, I think, could be a game over, a takeover game scorer. Where if Laurie's shot isn't working on the outside, Zach LaVine and hasn't been great.
Yeah.
Miles Bridges can take over a game and really start putting in points. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Here's the real
balls into hoops.
Yeah, putting balls into hoops.
Here's the real heavy hitter question. This is the last thing I'll leave for the 1 through 10. Best kind of bridge. Is it a steel bridge, a stone bridge, a wooden bridge, a covered bridge?
That's going to do it for our 1 through 10. Now we're going to move on. Thanks for the it's Jeff Bridges, by the way.